What's going on, guys? Welcome to Saw Shop. Today on the agenda, for one of our subscribers and fellow Facebook group members, we got his 562 XP, and it's got a bad bearing on the flywheel side. Pretty chewed up right there on the left side. Gonna be replacing that. Just figured I wanted to hop in, show y'all some of the tools that we need to do this job and how to do it. First off, some of these 562s, they're 3, 4, 5, 6 screw cases. Some of them are just 5 screw cases, but either way, these tools work for all of them. So one thing you're gonna need is a 562 550 XP seal install tool. Part number for that is 575 3469-1. And with that, you get the seal install tool, and it comes with the sleeve for your PTO side. And this works for both seals, works for the flywheel side seal and the PTO side seal if you need to replace that. Next thing you're going to need is the crank install kit. That's part number 502 503023. And that comes with your rod for your clutch side, flywheel side, both nuts to pull the crank into the case and the bearings. Then you'll need the crank splitter tool. And these things, they're pretty expensive. They may have come down some. I hadn't looked at them in a little while, but I know when I bought this set, I think it came with this, that, and the bearings and seals, and it was about $250 or better. But you'll need the little bracket. You need this piece that goes over the bar studs, splits crank, and you'll also need all these spacers to set this up on your flywheel side. I'll show y'all how to do that, and we'll go through the steps. I'm gonna go ahead and pause y'all and get this thing set. So the first thing you need to do on these is drop this piece over your bar studs. Get your bar nuts on. Keep them loose where that piece will move. Then you got this piece that comes with your crank splitter kit. What you want to do is set this right in the crank. And then screw this piece down. All the way screwed in. You want to make sure you keep the end of the T-handle on the crank. Alright, see it just bottomed out there. That's all you need. Barely back off on this. Now you need to snug your bar nuts up. But I'll do the best I can for right now. Then I'm gonna set it up. And be sure to snug these down pretty good. Alright, so snug your bar nuts down really good. Make sure they're good and tight. Make sure they're snugged up. Make sure you got all your bolts out of the case. Double check to make sure. Now, all you want to do is just kind of hold your crank a little bit. You really ain't got to hold it. You just start tightening up on your T-handle. If you hold the case here, turn against it, it's a lot easier. Just turn it. And if anything feels like it's binding or anything, just stop. And this thing should pop off pretty smoothly. And there There she is. That's that case half off. Bar nuts. We will set that over here. This thing should be pretty straight with the case. I believe that is it. So you don't use a short spacer. Use the long spacer and the two middle size spacers. Then you want to get your 4mm. Make sure this ain't touching the crank. Take your 4mm and just snug these. Don't drive them home. She's hitting center. Now all you do is just turn easy. And there she went. Now the bearing's coming out with this one. That's fine. We got the bearing splitter and we gotta change the bearing anyway. There she is. Let me bring you over here. So that is the setup. Gets the long spacer, medium spacer down there. And then you just find the bolt that fits according. And that's her. Next, we're going to get the bearing splitter out. We'll get this bearing off. And we'll go back with the new bearing stuff in here. Now, if it just so happens does leave a bearing on the crank, don't freak out. You can go on Amazon. I bought this bearing puller kit, maybe between 30 and 50 bucks, I think. Use the small one, and what I had to do on this one to do these is grind this lip right here till it was not a knife edge, but had to get it thinner than it was. It was pretty thick buying it. Just get you a little crescent wrench, snug these down, loosen these nuts up. Take one washer off, drop that on, put your washers back down, and your nuts. Don't tighten it up yet because you don't know where it's going to wind up just yet. Now just get this over. Find the best place to get under there, and most of the time it's going to be pretty much where the metal is. You don't really want to pull against the plastic. And just kind of tighten it down evenly. Now loosen this up till it above the crank. Loosen your nuts and get it centered up. That's about it there. I'll lock these down. You ain't got to get crazy tight with it. Just make sure she's snug. Easily start pulling it. Once the bearing initially breaks its fit on the shaft, it's like this right here, pretty easy. And she's off. There she is. So that's this side. Back side. That's why I do not like nylon cage bearings. I'm just getting everything cleaned up, but I figured I want to come in and let y'all know the flywheel side bearing for this is part number 505-1335-04. We're going to take this and throw it in the freezer for about an hour, and then we'll start heating the case and drop it in. So one thing I do is I got pieces of brass. Once I drop a bearing in, I'll set this on top as a heat sink. It'll suck some of the heat out of the case. And on the back side of it, I set up a brass, just a little blank, and a big brass nut and another piece just to hold it up against the case so the heat stays in the case and doesn't just blow all the way through and not heat the case up. Got the heat gun, temp gun. We're going to heat it up roughly about 300, 350. So at first I just heat it up on low, bring it up to about 200, then I grab a bearing, then we'll take it the rest of the way. Don't get too close to it, just try to heat it evenly so that way when the bearing gets dropped in, it goes on in. So what I'm going to do now is give it a little heat. I'm going to go grab this bearing, have it ready. Now let's take it. There she is. So now what you want to do, you want to go ahead and get that thing pretty cooled off fast as you can, because it's got that nylon in it. And grab a glove here, and then we'll put some air on her. So there's different ways you could do this. You could use a heat gun, you could use a torch, you could stick the case half in the oven on 350 for 30 minutes, so just to get it heated all the way through. But if you're going to put it in the oven, remember to take your top cover clips off. Like I said, it's got a stop in it, so you just drop it in and till it stops. Once it cools down for a minute, that bearing will be held in place really nice. And so we're going to set this here. You're going to let that cool down until it gets room temperature, and then we will start the assembly. Alright, at this point, when you go to pull the crank in, you'll need your crank tool, crank install tool. Which one you want to pull first? I'm going to pull the PTO side first. So just stick your crank in. Be sure to get your rod at the top where it's going to be open to the piston. You know, get it up like it's supposed to be. And also, I don't think you got it on video, but drip a little oil inside your bearing. A couple little light dabs will do you. That way it ain't dry when it starts up, and then rub a little oil on your crankshaft, the side you're going to pull in. Just go ahead, put your big nut on if you're doing the PTO side. Screw it all the way down. This face is going to set against the inner race of the bearing. It's easier to do this too. Keep it up where it needs to be. crescents. Hold it. Tighten her up. Be easy with it. This thing should pull pretty smooth. You shouldn't have to force anything. And you're just gonna pull it till it bumps and stops. See, it just hit. That's all you got. Don't force it. Now just loosen it up. Take this out. And you can take this off. All right. Now, layer over. Get your other case half. A little bit of oil. Just a little oil. Literally a thin coat. Nothing crazy. It just needs a little bit of lubrication. Slide this down. I'll push it. Now, what I do not pull this case together with the case bolts. But I take it and sit about 2 case bolts in. I just start the thread. That way it'll keep the alignment right on the case. So you can just go ahead and pull it. That's it. Just like that. Now you want to take your big nut off. Same thing, set it on the inner race of the bearing. This time it's your little nut. Remember, this side's reverse thread. Make sure it's pulling, and then every once in a while just stop, check, make sure everything is going smooth. Make sure your the little case pins, make sure they're lining up. Like I said, don't worry about speed. Right now you just want to focus on pulling it together nice and easy, keeping everything in line. And you're going to do the same thing, pull this till the bump's tight. Alright, she just bumped. She did. Now just crack it loose. Look everything over. Everything is looking good. Now go ahead and start all your case bolts. Just dab some glue on. Not much, just a little bit. You want to be able to get this thing apart in the future if something ever happens. Alright, they're all snugged up. Now I'm gonna snug these middle 3 first around the crank. Don't get too wild with them, just a good little snugging. And then do the other 3 at the front. And let that sit for a minute, because it's going to compress that gasket. Now there could be a little bit of side load on the crank from pulling it. So what I do is just give it the slightest little tap. Both ways. A couple times. And like I said, she's freed up. Yeehaw, boy! Now we'll go ahead and get this seal in. So next thing we're going to do is go ahead and put this, get the crank seal in. Just get you a little oil on your finger. Rub it on the shaft. Oil this crank seal sleeve up. Let's get a little oil on that. Drop it down. Go ahead and drop the seal sleeve over. Now your seal, you want to do the same thing. Put a little bit of oil on it. Not much. Go ahead, get it started over the sleeve. And don't pull back on it after you start pushing it down. And take her home. Yeah, you drive that seal down until it stops. It'll seat against the bearing, and that seal will go and seal against the inner race of that bearing. Bring y'all in here. See how that outside seal lip seals against the inner race of the bearing? And that's all it is to it. We're gonna go ahead and we'll put the tank and the coil and everything back on. We'll get it packaged up and tied. We're gonna get this thing sent out to you, buddy. Hope y'all enjoy this video. Hopefully it helps somebody out. Y'all like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Let me know if I can do anything different. Y'all have a great day. Dubs, we out.